a little bit, but we are waiting for Scott Lucas to join us if he's got any time. If he still has time. Because it took me longer to connect up the system because I've been playing around with it the last couple of days. Hey, Daily Debunker, what is up? Teach, how you doing, man? Uh, uh, so proud of that. Uh, Hopefully, Scott Lucas will be here in just a couple of minutes. But listen, what we can do is, in case you are not familiar, boy, that mic is really in my face, isn't it? In case you're not familiar, there has been an explosion in two of them, I think, uh, in Kabul near the airport outside of the blast walls, I think. Was kind of waiting to get a bit of a update there from that source, Scott Lucas. But he has been on Indian television, apparently, two different channels of Indian television because they are hear about the San Diego students stranded. I I have not. I have not. I was searching the memory banks, and there is nothing there while we're waiting. Ooh, I need to get this tooth pulled. Anybody know a cheap dentist in Chicago? So tell me about it, Daily Debunker. Ah, here we go. Thank you, sir. Students from San Diego County School District stranded in Afghanistan. Good Lord. Don't know. There he is. Oh, and he jumped right in because uh, that's how we roll. What's up, bud?
Hey, buddy. Yeah, sorry. It's been crazy. I've been chatting to Indian TV for the past 90 minutes, which is a story
Yeah,
that's
well, I
on the way.
appreciate you being able to give me a couple of minutes and give
Yeah.
us a couple of minutes.
Yeah, I think we got about 20 here before duty calls and I clock off for the night here and preserve my marriage. But yeah,
No
I'm
worries.
just going to close down other browser windows so we got the maximum bandwidth, that issue. And then fire away. What do you want to know? Or perhaps, tell me your wisdom on what's happening right now.
Well, yeah, I have not, been. I kind of stopped watching CNN religiously a while ago, and that's generally my only feed for news, other than what I get, traveling around
Yeah.
the internet. But let's just go. Give us the basic outline of the explosions, where they
Yeah.
occurred, and what we know so
Yeah.
far.
All right. So what happened is, you're really smart. Viewers out there will know the story around the evacuations that have been going on since the Taliban moved into Kabul on August the 15th, I think it was, and they'll know that they were supposed to wrap up on the 31st. Well, you've got this big airport, this international airport, Hamid Karzai International Airport, and there are a series of gates that are set up because that's where you screen the people because, of course, are you a foreign national? Great. Off you go. Are you an Afghan who has got a visa? Great. Off you go. Are you an Afghan who's worked closely with us? Perhaps you can go. We have, and what happens is that people, you'll see the pictures, all these Afghans come, some of whom have the visas, but other Afghans who don't. They just want to get the hell out of the country. And so you've got this
Right.
complete turmoil and tumult that had gone out there. And there had been, even before this incident today, we had the episode where there were people who were crushed to death in what they're out there. We had a couple of episodes of gunfire. But what had been happening is that in recent days, the Americans, and indeed I suspect other Western intelligence services, but the Americans were up front on it. Said, look, we think there might be an attack. And they kept pointing to this group, which is not really well known, I think, amongst a lot of people. It's called ISIS-K, which makes you think of the Islamic State from Syria and Iraq. But the best way to think of them is like the way you think of a franchise, right? This is like a local group of folks who say, okay, we'll pledge allegiance to the Islamic State, but they've got their own basically ambitions, their own basically setup, which is in the Afghan-Pakistan area. And they've been around since 2015. So what happens is today, they're the most likely suspects because they have been trying to build up and sort of gather more members. They were down to about 2,000 members last year. In the first 4 months of this year, they carried out 73 attacks in Afghanistan compared to 20 in the same period last year. So they were already there. They're not as big as the Taliban, of course. They're relatively small, but all it needs is a few guys, and it's fairly easy to put together a suicide bomb. That's the horrible fact about this. So it is not 100% confirmed, but the Americans are putting it out, the agencies, that they believe it's ISIS-K, and I suspect the Brits will follow as well. Someone, whether it's ISIS-K or another, gets in amongst this mess of people who are trying to get through the Abbey Gate.
Right.
And it's not 100% confirmed, but it looks like it's a suicide bomb. It looks like it's a suicide vest.
Okay. Here we go.
And then nearby, but Rev, just put this in context, because you got it. Nearby is where the reception area for when the Americans clear people, they hold them in a hotel. And then they send them out when their names get called, and off they go. And there was a second explosion outside that hotel. That took place at about the same time. And then there's gunfire, because the pattern is these guys who detonate, it's not just one guy setting off the bomb, there's other folks in the cell who are around, and they can cause turmoil as well. I've got to double check, because I was doing Indian TV when the news was confirmed. I knew that the American Marines had been injured, but the confirmation of the deaths took place. I'm not sure, but I'm pretty sure, I think they probably would have been near the Abbey Gate processing people. They went through and weren't near the hotel, but I'll need to check that. But in any event, what you've got is multiple dimensions that I'm trying to work through here. One is that from the standpoint of what is happening in Afghanistan that we're all concerned about, this attack, if it is ISIS-K, ISIS Khorasan, for its full name, is not just a challenge to the Americans. It's not just a challenge to the international community or the evacuations. It's a challenge to the Taliban. And this is really
hey,
important.
by the way, Pablo, hello, buddy.
Hey.
Very sad news to hear. A challenge to the Taliban. So look, I heard this on CNN. This is not me. This could be also advantageous to the Taliban, because this gets the deed done with the Americans maybe getting on the plane and getting the hell out of town without having to negotiate a longer term. Because what I also heard on CNN was these guys were packing up and going, and telling people, this was from Admiral, the former congressman and CIA guy, what's his name? Anyway, basically said, look, they're telling non-Americans, just head north. Maybe you can make it across the border.
Yeah. See, the Brits were saying the same thing. And there's one border crossing that's open in southern Afghanistan, right across from Pakistan. Rev, I want to be careful. I mean, I watched CNN up until about 2 hours ago when I had to do this work. And I got to be honest with you, at that point, CNN, their guys in Afghanistan or who just left Afghanistan, they were all scrambling as well because they're like, oh, it could
Sure.
be ISIS-K, it could be Al-Qaeda, it could be the Taliban. I'm going to go with Occam's razor here. And
Hmm.
that is that the Americans were going anyway, right? So you give the Americans a bloody nose. If anything, the loss of 4 American Marines steps up the pressure on Biden not to have everybody bug out,
Yeah.
right? This isn't like Somalia 93, right? The Black Hawk Down incident. It's like, wait a minute, you were cutting and running. Now you've lost lives. Are you going to let these guys die in vain? The other thing I got to say is that Taliban ISIS, and it's hard to get this across because especially I've been talking to the Indians who have a conspiracy theory that the Americans, the Taliban, ISIS-K, and Pakistan all planned this together, right? So that's been doing my head in. But ISIS-K is a rival for influence with the Taliban in the region. Now they're
Okay.
small.
Just hey, quickly,
Yeah,
ISIS K. Give people the K because most people just heard ISIS in the past.
yeah, exactly. And it's important because they're not like it's not the same as ISIS in Iraq and Syria.
Not a
So
franchise,
when yeah, it's like it's like spinoffs. It's like Al Qaeda had spinoffs, and like some local
right?
guys take over and I don't want to be flippant, but it's like they take over the local version, Al Qaeda version of KFC or McDonald's in North Africa or in Yemen. Same thing's happened with ISIS in North Africa, and then in comments there you've got ISIS horizon, and I've been following for about 6 years, and these guys are like, okay, we think the Taliban are too soft. Some of them are former Taliban members. We think they're too soft in their strict interpretation of Sharia law. We want an ISIS caliphate, similar to Syria and Iraq, rather than Taliban rule. So that puts them in the position where when the Taliban, when they swept across the country, they freed a lot of prisoners. You might remember that, right?
Hmm.
Because they're just letting people out of jails and just like, come on, come join the Taliban. But one of the people they freed, they knew was the ISIS, the head of the Islamic State in South Asia. They executed him on the spot, right? So there's no love
Wait,
lost
the
between those
Taliban
groups.
executed
Yeah,
him on the
they
spot.
executed on the spot.
So they
That's
yeah.
it. Bosh. So Taliban see ISIS-K as a challenge. ISIS-K see it as an opportunity to say to Afghans, follow us, not the Taliban, because it makes, of course, it makes the Americans look weak, what happened today, but it makes the
Hmm.
Taliban look weak.
You
Makes
know,
them
I
look,
I get a lot of grief on Twitter
yeah,
from resistors, and I mean, look, people. I mean, I'm not a Democrat. I'm not a liberal. I'm a freaking communist. Okay. I
yeah,
mean, communism is too right wing extremist for me, and I do vote with the Democrats and generally favor the Democrats' policies because my communist state isn't coming anytime soon, and it'll be like the Star Trek economy and a lot of fun. So that's not coming anytime soon. But the Biden administration, this makes him look bad, but his whole decision making process makes him look incompetent and bad, and his approach to not having any sympathy for the Afghanis. Maybe inside it's all good, but externally this is a nightmare for them.
yeah. I mean, Rev, we could talk about how the Trump folks, and I don't mean Trump, he didn't know what the hell was going on, but
Right.
the Trump officials were the ones who were in political talks with the Taliban. They were pointing towards a withdrawal if they could get the right kind of political resolution. But the speed and the scope of the withdrawal, Biden, you own it, mate. You and your officials own it. And we talked
Right.
when I chatted to you before, we talked about the first stage of this, which is that American withdrawal basically paved the way for the Taliban advance, made easier because the Afghan government was illegitimate, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But what you have now is that the speed of the withdrawal meant you could not plan this evacuation effectively. You had to plan it really, really quickly. When they gave up, someone made a good point today. I hadn't thought about this. Rev, you remember Camp Bagram? You remember their big military base, one of the biggest in the
Mm-hmm.
world that they took out? Um, one thing I kept saying is, look, they left overnight. They didn't talk to the Afghan allies. It looked bad, et cetera, et cetera. There's another effect that someone pointed out today. If they had kept Bagram open, they could have used Bagram as an evacuation point to take people out of the country. You would have had troops at Bagram. You wouldn't be just dependent on this airport which is in the middle of Kabul, where you got people coming in from all around. Now, it still would have been a hell of an effort and so on, but they gave up Bagram, and therefore they gave up the possibility of using that in the evacuation. So you got to ask, when they planned the withdrawal, because they initially thought, all right, we're going to withdraw, and they said, I've heard estimates from between 6 months to 2 years. They estimated the Afghan government could stay when they first made the announcement. When it became clear that the Afghan government wasn't going to stick around that long, what were your plans for the evacuation? Given that it's not just the Taliban you're talking about, but the American intelligence knows ISIS-K's out there. They've been tracking these guys for years. So yeah, I'm sorry, I'm talking around the shops. Just
No. That's very good. Pompeo needs to be grilled in front of Congress. Well, there you go. What do you think about that, Scott?
Yeah, I mean, look, this is one where nobody comes out looking good, and where there's enough blame that you could share it around Washington 6 times over. But again, I want to be just upfront with your folks out there. Pompeo is involved in it. A guy named Zalmi al-Khalilzad, he's Afghan born. He's been a U.S. envoy in Afghanistan ever since 9/11. He was ambassador to Afghanistan at one point. You need to have a debrief on everything that happened there. But I got to be straight up with you, because I did a big BBC interview, which is up on eaworldview.com. I'll plug where I work on a day-to-day basis. And I was doing 5 Live last night with a Democrat analyst and a Republican analyst, and they're both like combining to cover each other's backs. Like they're saying, oh, well, Trump, we got to acknowledge that Trump set this in motion, but Biden did it, but they're just doing the best that they can. And, if they get all the Americans evacuated, it's going to look, we will have succeeded. And you can imagine what that did to me, Rev. I mean, I almost basically lost it on air, which is that the Trump people get no credit for a chaotic, unpredictable process given the guy in the White House. But it's the Biden people who had the option. They could have continued the political talks. They could have drawn out this withdrawal and done it over the course of a year, for example. They could have done it at a time when the Taliban were not as strong. If they had drawn it out, they could have planned much more better for what could happen next, put in all the contingency plans. The military told Biden that, but they went along with what Biden said. They didn't disobey. They followed commands. And that's where we are now.
The idea of, hang on, I got a 7-year-old trying to get his Nintendo working, so he's not, let's not say bugging, but no, let's say bugging me. What's going on?
Tell him to give us 5, Rob, and I got to cut out of here to get dinner, and you got to cut out to sort out Nintendo.
Yeah,
right.
Very good. Yeah, give me 5 minutes, Aiden. We'll get it fixed. Scott's got to go too. So the plan. Look, I don't care what Trump did. I don't care who got released from prisons. I don't care what strategy Biden folks came up with. They own it. They own it. They have had 200 plus days to figure out how to exit out of Kabul. Did they say Kabul or Kabul?
But I get confused with my terrible American accent, mangling languages. But I go with Kabul.
Kabul.
I go with Kabul. But
they own this. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Well, let me give the viewers, you great folks out there, and thanks so much for coming in on the spot to join us. Let me give you basically the dimensions I'm looking at right now, right? And I always look at this in 3 dimensions. And I'll start off, and then I'll get to the big one, which is I think this is a game changer domestically for Biden. Um, Within Afghanistan, uh, you've got the immediate decision, which I'm sure the Americans are going to have to make right now, and everything turns on the Americans. No one else can stay if the Americans go, and that is,
Right. Well, the
do you
British are
bug?
already bugging out.
Yeah, exactly. The British were already planning to bug out anyway, so I think the Belgians already wrapped up today. The Irish only had a small contingent, but they've pretty much called it quits. Do the Americans completely bug out now, which will make, you know, basically everybody who's there is now stranded, including 1,500 Americans who are still in the
Well, these
country.
students that
Yeah, yeah,
Teach was
yeah,
pointing out, 16
yeah.
students or something.
Good Lord, what kind of student exchange program was that? But anyway,
Yeah, I didn't have time to read the article yet, but like I love my kids and I want them to expand their mind, but Taliban territory might not be a field trip I would
no,
endorse.
no. So you've got what's going to happen in Afghanistan, which is because the Americans got to decide whether to bug out now or extend the evacuation. I I think if they extend the evacuation, it's only to get Americans out because it just continues to
Well,
put them at risk of more attacks.
hey, I know you got to jump, but Pablo says, do you suspect Biden will make an announcement? And before you answer that question, um, if Biden stays somehow, this is going to, if Biden wanted to take Afghanistan back, it would be massive and bloody and lots of American casualties. He's between a rock and a hard place. But go ahead and answer Pablo's question.
Yeah, and anonymous Facebook user, by the way, which is out there. Thank you for correcting us, Kabul, right, to make sure that we get it right. Um, and then let me,
Couple.
sorry,
Thank you.
I was busy talking. So Biden is going to have to make an announcement of some kind because you've got American lives that have been lost, right? So what does he say? I suspect from the signals that are already coming out, what we're going to get is we regret the loss of life, but this just shows why we needed to evacuate by August 31st because this threat was going to just continue and magnify. This vindicates the decision to come out by then. That's what I expect. I
Mm-hmm.
don't expect this to change the American plans. That takes me to the second level, which is you watch the region now, right? Um, I've talked to you about how the key players now, it's no longer the Americans, it's the Pakistanis, it's the Chinese behind them. Indeed, it'll be the Iranians. It's a big play. Pakistan is now got to make a decision now as to whether they make themselves look like we stand against terrorism. Because if Pakistan doesn't do that, there's going to be a world of pain that comes down on them. They're going to get hit with the idea, just like they were after 9/11. You're the reason why this mess has occurred because you got links with the Taliban.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what everybody is screaming on Indian television in my earpiece: sanction the Pakistanis, sanction the Pakistanis. So there's some regional players, not just the Americans, got to make some tough decisions for the longer term. But the third point, Rev, real quick, is I expect Biden to continue the evacuation, but he just lost his gamble. He just lost a big hand in terms of poker. And that is the Biden calculation all along was because they knew the Taliban were going to take over.
Mm-hmm. Of
They
course.
knew it. They knew it later rather than sooner, but they knew by the start of August it was only going to be a few months and probably weeks. He still went ahead with it because
Mm-hmm.
bring the boys home. Stop wasting money, stop wasting resources. And if you get everybody out, Dunkirk moment, you get
Mm-hmm.
everybody out and no lives
Hero.
lost, we're a hero, right?
Yeah.
We're a hero. Yay, great America, great America. Those four
Don't
dead men, and
Americans
yeah, I don't
don't
want to
they
belittle
know
those.
history? Like we fuck this shit up every time. I mean, God, I we won World War II just by sheer massive force and lots of competent generals. We had lots of incompetent generals, but guerrilla warfare, like it's not winnable. These kind of things. I know you got to go. El Shabazz and Pablo, thank you. Teach, thank you. I'm going to stick around a minute, but I'm very curious to see how Iran will respond. I want to hear that for my friend Dakini in Tehran. So, and then maybe you can jump.
Yeah,
And oh,
I,
Mrs.
I,
Lucas, Ms. Lucas, Mrs. Lucas, please, my apologies to her.
yeah,
If I could send chocolates, overseas, oh, I probably can. Okay, well, I better not commit to that. But please tell
We'll
her
take
thank
virtual
you.
chocolates, Rev. We'll take virtual chocolate. All right, I'll handle that, Rev. But before I get to Iran, let me handle this question from an anonymous Facebook user, which is really a good
Oh,
point
yeah.
here. And that is, that agrees with us. The Biden administration could have done things differently, but the Taliban was getting stronger. Who knows what else the Pentagon and the White House knew that we didn't. What happened, anonymous Facebook user, and the Pentagon would have known this, and the White House would have known it. But I don't know if they factored it in initially. When Biden made his decision in April and he announced the withdrawal, the Taliban went around to all these local factions, because Afghanistan's not just the Taliban and the Afghan National Forces. It was like other folks who came in and said, it's like other local groups with like local commanders. And the Taliban went around to them and said, look, the Americans are going out. We're top dog now. Look, you work with us, you can make some profit out of this. You can have influence in your area if you accept our rule. And then they went to the Afghan security forces, national forces, and said, guys, do you want to fight us? Do you really want to fight us? Because the Americans just said they're leaving. And the Taliban, if you notice, that advance through Afghanistan was relatively bloodless, given that the Taliban are ruthless bastards, right? Because they effectively, politically, just exploited what Biden had done. So I think Facebook user, I think the Americans picked up on what was happening, but it's like closing the door after the horse had bolted with that withdrawal announcement. In terms of Iran, Rev, that's a great question. And it's fascinating because the Iranians, before this happened, it's like it's double-edged. On the one hand, the Americans have gotten a black eye, and the Iranians are thinking, expand our influence in Central Asia. On the other hand, they got bad blood with the Taliban from the 90s because the Taliban killed Iranian diplomats. They killed an Iranian journalist. Their approach to Islam is very different than the Iranian approach to Islam. So the Iranians are trying to calculate how much can we work with the Taliban. So they did not open their border. They opened their border temporarily for refugee centers, but they told the Afghans who come across, you're going back at some point. So they're playing really cautious with the Taliban. But now, not only if you're Iran, but if you're Russia or if you're China or Pakistan, you're looking at the fact that the Taliban don't control the country. They don't control Kabul right now if this is ISIS-K. So how many chips do you put in on the Taliban right now? Not because Taliban are evil, Taliban are bastards, we all know that, but because the Taliban cannot establish unchallenged authority. That's where we are in Afghanistan. So Biden will have his problems at home. That's going to dominate the American papers. But that's what I'm going to be looking at in terms of Afghanistan and beyond the headlines, as it were, over the next few days.
Well, then let's do this, Scott. I know you've got these gigs on Indian TV with all their fascinating conspiracy theories. So I'm definitely going to go on Indian newspapers.
Not with one channel, Rev. I'm not doing that channel again. It was the first time I'd done it, and no way I'm walking into that shitstorm again. No damn way.
I'm going to go plant some. Tell them to put me on. I will plant some conspiracy theories that'll get me back day after day after day. I could make some big money in India. Thank you. Let's keep this open, dude. Anytime something comes up, if it's kind of during the day, and we can jump on for half an hour, and Olga and Monique as well. I'm pretty nimble, and we're getting people here that are grateful for this little bit of news that we're doing this. So El Shabazz and everybody, great. I will let you go. Finish your thoughts, Scott.
Well, Rev, I think it's been organized that if you can make it, I know it's a bit early for you with your U.S. folks, but it's a Friday. See if they can get out of work early. If you can do 11 a.m. your time, 5 p.m. UK tomorrow, we can do that.
Let's do it.
All right. And I think Monique can come in. And folks, if you don't know Monique, you should. Monique Kamara, absolutely top notch, almost as good as Rev. So we can gather then if you want to. All right.
I am just the sexy host who guides the conversation. I don't know what the hell I'm talking about.
But you got the look, Rev. You got the look.
I do. I got the voice. I got the pipes and the looks. So fantastic, Scott. Much appreciate you, my friend. And yeah, we'll see you tomorrow then at 11. I'll set it up in the I'll set up one of these scheduled deals and I'll invite everybody and we'll see who can show up.
Fantastic. Folks, y'all stay safe. Spare a thought for the Afghans tonight, and we'll catch y'all possibly tomorrow.
Please do. And thank you, Scott, very much.
All right. All right. Over and out. All
right, buddy. Sports for the Blind. I saw you make a comment there too. Thank you, Il Shabazz. I appreciate that you value this. This is something that means a lot. Peace in the Middle East, wouldn't that be a beautiful thing? I'm going to stick around for just a couple of minutes because I did invite a couple of other people. We'll see if they pop in, but I am going to take a little break here. You'll see me on the screen, but I'm going to see if I can fix this device here, the Nintendo Switch that's acting up.
It's not acting up. Dad, you have to press A.
Public.
No, you didn't. Okay.
Your public ID. What the heck would that be? Yeah, don't worry. I'm not going to say what your public ID is.
You better not. Shut this real quick. 5 minutes to be
there. Thanks. How do you go to the next thing?
Next what?
Oh, wait. How do I get it to go to this next one, do you think?
Just press A. Oh, no, that types A. No.
Can't get it to the next.
S. I mean A.
What is it?
A. No. B. Try B. No, try B.
Hold on. That does the letters.
Press B. Press B. Nope. Then press A again. Press A again.
Go buzz in. Who's ever trying to get in?
No. It's too late anyway. Should I? It's too late.
Well, wait. They'll do it again.
You might think no one's home. You probably think no one's home. Well, your headphones.
I have no idea. See if you can get it in that box. Otherwise, just maybe reboot.
What do I press to get off?
We'll go from there.
What do I press to get off of it?
What?
What do I press to get off?
You're probably just going to have to turn it off.
No, to get off of this. Y, X, B, T.
I almost say F everyone else except America. You know what I mean, I hope.
Got it.
Oh, we got the password.
Just don't say it out loud. Okay, I'll go plus this time.
Boy, Apex, you certainly created a crappy login screen for your game, if anybody's watching.
I don't know who it is.
Okay, I don't know how to get to log in.
Just press OK. Oh, just press.
Oh, you just erased the password.
Wait.
All right, you got to get me back in there.
No. Why do you have to get back in there?
Just reboot. This is just.
No, it's not. It's not. You just don't know how to do it.
Get me back in there to type.
It's easy. Just press it.
Sports for the blind. I can understand what you're saying, but the fact of the matter is, it is what America does. I mean, we don't do it well, but we've got more money and capabilities than anybody else to make the world a better place. Even though we don't do it right, I don't think it means we shouldn't try, though I think we should think more.
Okay, it's the mailman. This is getting annoying now.
I think we have to make an account.
Okay, well, look it up.
Yeah, I think we have to make one.
Look it up.
Yeah, it's not. It's the Nintendo Switch. There's no way to do that. Hang on 1 minute. All right, everybody. Well, look, we'll be back tomorrow at 11 a.m. my time. That's 5 p.m. in the UK, and we're going to talk more about this. El Shabazz, thank you so much. Sports for the Blind, thank you so much for joining us. And Pablo, thank you for joining us as well. And look, Scott Lucas is... Oh, and Daily Debunker, thanks for being here. Scott Lucas is an expert on this stuff, folks, and you're getting a world-class, a 30-year professor of this stuff, Professor Emeritus at Birmingham University in Birmingham, England, and it's happening on HAPS, and this is the place to get that up-to-date news, just as much as CNN or anything else. Daily Debunker, I will reach out to you so we can talk some politics stuff too very soon. And always tap me on the shoulder sometime in the daytime. I know you're teaching soon, but let me know, my friend. So I'm going to jump. I do have a 7-year-old here who deserves my attention because school's going to be starting in a few days. So, that's Alex buzzing.
Oh, is it?
That's your sister.
What's she doing?
Yeah. All right. So we got to go. Everybody take care.